Hey legends, welcome back to another episode of Hey You Get a Real Fucking Job. I am Reggie B. I am your host, and on today's we got Patrick Ryckman. Patrick is joining us from Edmonton, Alberta today. He says it's not very tropical there today. It's not where I am either. But Patrick is the CEO and owner of Exact Visual Studios. They are a full-service digital marketing agency. They run social media campaigns, Facebook and Instagram group outreach. They create logos, websites, SEO, and they even have virtual assistant services. So it's basically a one-stop shop for business marketing, which we all know is, very, very important in today's market. So with that being said, Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Reggie, for having me. Yeah,
hey.
That's quite a character you are there.
Well, hey, just trying to keep up the persona, right? If you've seen my logo, that's why I wear the shirt. Everybody thinks I don't have much of a wardrobe, and I probably don't. But hey, you gotta live who you are. So, listen, we know, like I said, that digital marketing is huge in today's society. It seems like everybody's looking for social proof. And it's that social proof that can make or break you in today's industry and can even be the deciding factor if people choose to do business with you. And I think that's why we see, a lot of companies come out of the woodwork, so to speak, who are in your industry. It seems like as time goes on here, you start to see more people who are advertising, I do, social media campaigns, and I do this and I do that. And I definitely want to cover four of the main areas I think that a lot of startup businesses struggle with, myself included. But before we do that, you know what? I always like my legends to get to know who the guest is, because part of what we do here is we try to educate people and inspire them to start their own business. And I like them to see, what's the background of somebody who's been there, done that, Did they grow up in a rich family? Did they grow up in the slums? Did they, what's their story, so they can kind of relate to that and say, hey, you know what? If Patrick can do it, I got the same background. Why can't I? So let's maybe start with that, Patrick. Tell us about yourself. I knew you grew up in Toronto. Is that correct?
Yeah, in Oshawa, actually. I just say Toronto for people that are farther away. That's right. The same to them.
Yeah.
But if you're from that area, then I grew up in Oshawa mostly, although spent some time in Toronto.
Right.
I definitely kind of got started at an early age with doing small businesses. My dad always owned his own business, so I used to go drive around with him from store to store doing sales.
Okay.
And I had a chocolate bar selling company. Well, I worked for somebody selling chocolate bars, not just with the school, but as a job.
Right. Yeah.
When I was 12, and then working in a convenience store that my parents owned when I was 14. We weren't a rich family, but we certainly weren't, we weren't poor of the poor,
right.
Just middle class, I guess. And I wanted to get into business because I felt like I saw the world was going downhill. I was really worried. I used to read these science magazines in that convenience store that I managed.
Right. Yeah.
And seeing all this global warming stuff and worried about, AI taking over the world and, and an asteroid that might hit and some super virus. And, I got all these ideas from reading science fiction novels and then reading popular science magazines, putting the two together. And I really worried. And so I got started basically on that premise, was that I was worried that the world was going to collapse and I needed to save it. So,
that's awesome for somebody and that was what, your early teens. So that's quite the aspiration for somebody in their early teens, right?
Yeah.
Usually you're looking at, how can I sneak out of the house or, not get caught by mom and dad for doing shit I shouldn't be. So,
but there was that too. Both going on.
You got to take a break from saving the world, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, fortunately, since it has taken me so long and I haven't saved it yet.
Right.
Fortunately, other people have done all right without me. So, but I still strive.
Right. Right. And, so you had those aspirations. So did a lot of this, wanting to be in business come from your dad then, because you seen what he was doing, and you just kind of, it was ingrained in you to become, and let's face it, business people are salespeople, and you talked about the sales aspect of it. So is that kind of, do you think, what kind of inspired you to want to set out on your own besides the magazines and stuff?
Um, I guess that gave me the idea that I could. That
Okay.
was the
Yeah.
biggest thing. To see my father do it made me believe that that was a possibility for me. And it also, I don't know where I got it from, maybe books that I was reading, but I wasn't afraid to fail. And
Right.
my first all my companies up until maybe the past 5 years have failed in one way or another. But as I got older, I started to look at them not as failures, but as lessons along the way. My very first company I started when I was 17, just turning 18, and it was a marketing company that sold contracts for contracting businesses, painting and cement work and things. And I
Right.
would phone customers and do other forms of marketing to try and get clients for these contracting companies, and then they
Okay.
would give me a percentage.
Okay. Yeah.
And that business kind of failed because I started to do some things that were illegal, which I didn't really know at the time. Like advertising flyers on everybody's car, and then
Right.
I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
phone
Yeah.
calls from the mall. You can't do that on our property, and
Right.
and then I got the business. I got my clients upset at me because they were getting phone calls. Hey, you guys advertising in our car? You threw it into my window, and
Oh, okay.
but then ultimately I moved to Alberta, and that's why I stopped doing that company.
And so they chased you out of Toronto. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
out with my parents for the big boom.
Right.
18, I was old enough I could have stayed, but also young enough I could go. So I
Yeah.
went with my folks, and we moved to Brooks, Alberta.
Okay. I don't know
Small
where that is.
town. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, small town. Yeah.
Okay. And so what'd you do there? Did you um, go with higher education? Did you go to college at all? What did you do that way?
There at first, I went to school and I invested more heavily in spending time with friends and partying. And, I did buy my first house when I was 18.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I bought a second house when I was 18 and a bit.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was a rental property.
Yeah.
I had gotten my credit cards as soon as I was 18, basically, and started using them to the max and paying them off fully each month.
Right.
And then I was able to get a loan with, at that time, CMHC was offering 0% down. So after about 6 months of using my credit cards, I qualified for a 0% down mortgage, bought the house. I actually received about $2,000 on the day of closing
Oh,
instead of
wow.
having to pay money. I
Yeah.
received
Nice. You don't see that
it.
anymore.
Yeah, yeah, that was before the big boom.
Yeah.
Um, but unfortunately, I got into drugs, got heavily into drugs,
Oh,
and
wow.
kind of lost everything for a few years. And it took me a few years to get back out of that.
Really? Eh? So that was in your teens as well? Like after,
That was 19, 20, 21.
wow. So, maybe we should maybe, and you know what, we don't need to, but if you can talk on that a little bit, because it seemed like, you were doing probably better than most at 18 years old, having the wherewithal to actually buy some property.
Mhm.
You don't hear many 18-year-olds saying that, right? That's even a thought. So what led to, was it just the new group of friends, in a new place? What led you down the path of no return, so to speak?
Well, I would say that nails it on the head first, is the
Okay.
the group of friends. And I wish that I had received that. There's that saying that you are 80% of your friends, right?
Right.
Or your five friends or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember the exact quote, but
Yeah. You are the five closest people that you hang around with. That's kind of
yeah.
what you become.
And so, unfortunately, I made a bad choice of friends starting at the age of 14, going backwards,
Right.
and that influenced me big time. And I didn't realize that, and I didn't realize the person that I was becoming because of those friends, and I didn't realize that although those friends seemed cool to me at 14,
Yeah.
they were not cool in reality. And any 30-year-old man or woman would look at those kids and be like, "Those guys are effing losers, man. Why are
Right.
you hanging out with them?"
Right.
Right? but to me they were the coolest kids because they weren't afraid of anything. They had a disrespect for authority, which I thought was a good thing at that time because I was struggling with you know the idea that we are taught what is right.
Right.
And then I see in society and in the power structures of the world that they're not even following their own advice. Such as, for example, in grade 8, we watch a big thing. We spend 3 months learning about World War II, and we watch a big thing about how all the governments decided that, oh, war isn't good. We're not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And then here we are going to the Gulf War and sending missiles off everywhere. And, that just didn't sit with me. And so I just took authority in the structure of our world and our country is to be so hypocritical. And I really lost so much respect for the education system and the country in general.
Right.
And I don't mean the people, I mean the structure and the
Yeah.
government.
Yeah.
And then so these friends, with their disrespect for authority, they really appealed to me, and their fearlessness in terms of what people thought of them also appealed to me because perhaps I was insecure.
Right.
Anyways, for those reasons, I chose that group of friends, and I stuck with that group of friends up until my 20s. And when cocaine was offered to me at around 18, it was a girl that I had liked. I had a crush on, and I didn't know she was using cocaine.
Yeah.
But, she offered it to me, and, I wanted to be with her. So I kind of was like, yeah, sure. And I thought to myself, yeah, you can't get addicted the first time.
Right.
That's what I told myself.
Right.
That's not true. You can get addicted the first time.
Wow.
Yeah. So it took me years to get off of that. And I never even did it all the time. But unfortunately, the times that I would do it, I would spend every dollar I had, and I would become an absolute terrible person and a fiend for those drugs.
Wow.
Yeah. So it really ruined all my aspirations and everything that I was working on for a good 3 years. And then perhaps for 3 to 5 years after that, I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself with money.
Okay. Which makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, wow. Like, I mean, this is a part, and this is what I love about, interviewing different guests, because as much as, a bio and stuff I knew about you, this is definitely not, part of where I thought we were going. And this is what I love about, entrepreneurialism is anybody can do it, really, honestly. It doesn't matter what your past looked like. It didn't matter what struggles you went through. Once you break through them and clean up your life, which, obviously you have, and it was a struggle, but then so what? It's behind you, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you learned some valuable lessons from that. Like you said, you didn't trust yourself. So what did it take for you to get past that point and say, okay, you know what? It's time to get on with my life. Time to start doing the stuff that I want to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, the moment for me, the last time that I used was maybe almost 15 years ago now, and it was a girl that inspired me to quit, because she made me see the monster that I had become, the terrible person, and it brings tears to my eyes to think about it, how terrible of a person I was, and I was just so grateful that she allowed me to see myself that way.
Right.
And, so what had happened is, due to some of the real estate that I had done when I was a bit younger, I had received a check for $25,000 or something. And of that, I paid a few people back, and I had about 15,000 left. And then I gave some to my parents, so then I had about 10,000 left. And then when I met her, it was a new relationship, and she had all of this credit card debt that I don't remember how that she had gotten it, but it was totaling almost all of the money that I had left. And, because I guess partially I was afraid I was just going to use it all on drugs.
Right.
So I can't say like I'm so altruistic, but I paid off all of her cards. Right.
Okay.
And so, like I said, I don't want to say I'm so altruistic because I think perhaps part of it was that I was afraid I was going to waste money.
Right.
So anyway, so I paid off all of her debt, and she was so grateful, and things went well. And for a few months, everything was okay. And then we went to Calgary for a bit of a celebration. And, long story short, I started using again that night.
Oh, shit.
But what is the worst part is that because I had felt entitled to all of that credit card debt that I had taken off of her, I used her cards and refilled them back up to where I had paid them off. And
Wow.
I spent all that money back on cocaine. And but the epitome of what was the worst about it was, for one, it was supposed to be our special night. I don't remember if it was Valentine's or something, but I
Right. Yeah.
spent the whole night in and out of the hotel room looking for drugs throughout the street. But the worst about it was, that really made me see the monster I had become, was that I invited her to try it with me towards the end of the night,
Okay.
because she was so angry at me, and I knew that if she would just try this, she wouldn't be angry
She
anymore.
would understand. Right.
Yeah, and she'd be with me, and she said no, and the look in her face, and how, and the thought of my mind of like how I had destroyed my own life, and here I was willing to now destroy her life just so that I can use a little bit more. And that was the last time that I ever used, and that was the just the most heart-wrenching thing for me. And yeah, it's perhaps one of the worst things that I ever did, and I'm just so grateful that she never um said yes.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that was 10 or 15 years ago now, and I'll always be grateful for that.
Wow, that's
Absolutely.
powerful.
Yeah.
So the fact that she had said no, that was the aha moment for you. That opened your eyes, and you said, okay, I've got to stop being this monster. Is that the moment that that
Well,
decision was
it
made?
was it was the thought of like how pure she was and how innocent she was, and how I was willing to destroy her life entirely, just not even just so that I could use just a little bit more,
Right.
just a little bit more. Because if she had tried it with me, then perhaps she would have said, "Oh, I have a bit more money in this account. Let's use this too," right?
Right.
So just for a little bit more, I was willing to destroy her entire life, and that was just the thought of that, the thought of her purity and her innocence, and my willingness to take that from her just for an extra 20 minutes of enjoyment.
Wow. That's a powerful story. Like I said, I never expected this, and to hear that kind of story where you'd been down that road, you knew where it led, but once you got the chance again, that demon took hold. And yeah, we hear story about addiction and that, and I've never really spoken to somebody who's been down that road. We hear them, we see them, we get our thoughts in our mind, but you don't really understand, you know, the face that it takes, and what it can actually do to you. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's amazing. So let's jump past that point in your life, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, at some point, you got back on the straight and narrow, for lack of a better term. What kind of business did you get yourself into, or what did you do after that? Did you get a job? Did you decide, no, you know what, I wanted to be in business, it's time to get back into business? Where did that lead you after you got back to where
Yeah,
you
sure.
needed to
So,
be?
so kind of a fast forward from there to here. I spent the next few years, working on and off at other jobs. Never made enough money that I would have any money. I didn't want to hold money. I wasn't trusting myself. I would let
Really?
girlfriends hold all the money. I would work just enough so that I could contribute to the bills. Basically, I would just give, whatever girlfriend I was with at the time, here, you take my paycheck.
Yeah.
And that went on for 5 or 10 years, and
Wow.
it was that long that I really didn't trust myself. And I don't know when that point changed, but eventually I did anyways. And I was single for a while and was able to do okay. Anyways, fast forward to, let's say, maybe 4 or 5 years ago now was my first kind of foray back into the business field again. And
Yeah.
I started got right into it with artificial intelligence.
Okay.
So I started a company called Automated Industries, and I had recruited 5 or 6 people. We had a PhD on the team, a couple master's degrees, and it was really cool. We were all just working at like a startup, and just for shares in the company was kind of thing. And the idea was that we were going to create an AI to invest in the stock market.
Okay.
And I wanted to do that mostly so that I could use that to fund some other thing, because I felt like that was something that people could get behind. It's like, ooh, maybe we can make money, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that was, another one of these failed businesses. But I look at it now and realize, no, that wasn't a failure. That was a huge success. And I just have to look at what parts of it were a success, so
Right.
that I can take those, and then what parts of that did I do wrong, so that I can learn from them. And so some of the successful things that we did was, we created a working prototype. It didn't make great choices. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't that we could become millionaires using it, but it did make intuitive guesses based on the training data. And so we created a multi-layer recurrent neural network, which, having no degree in any type of
Yeah. Right.
computer industry, I felt very proud of, and proud of that I was leading a team and part of the team, and I could understand what was being done.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was really proud of that, and proud of the profits, or not the profits, the products that we made.
Right.
But ultimately, the reason that business fell apart was the team was not equal, and it was just a mismanagement of the people. And what
Okay.
happened is, I had a good job. I did a really great job of inspiring people, but some became more enthusiastic and inspired than others, and some worked harder than others.
Right.
So what ended up happening was the team became super off balanced, and some people were working way far ahead than other people even knew what was going on. And specifically, one person worked maybe 80 or even 100 hours a week on this project to get it up and running so quickly.
Yeah.
And because of that, he was so far ahead in the programming that nobody even else understood what he was actually even working on. And in addition to that, he worked so hard, he burned himself out.
Right.
So after 2 or 3 months, he quit. So he did all this, got our company like set up really well, so that we had a great basis to start from. We
Yeah.
could start doing testing with different data sets, and we were starting to do that. But then he quit, and since nobody really knew what he had really, they didn't understand the code, so that
Right.
they could kind of keep going.
Yeah.
I took it upon myself to try and understand his code and work on it and try and figure out what he had done, so that I could explain it to the rest of the team. But that took me so long that the rest of the team started to lose interest by then. And I started to run out of finances, where I couldn't afford to just not have a job and be doing
Right.
this all day. So I had to go back to working at a job.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned about a team and team dynamics, and that can be tough. That in itself can be a job of shit. That's why companies have HR managers and stuff like that. Is because having that cohesive team, and like, how do you put the brakes on somebody who's maybe going so fast, right? But you don't want to discourage them, and it's causing some friction with other people who maybe aren't dragging, but are getting frustrated with, okay, well, listen, this guy is kind of a one man show. He's not even caring about the rest of us. Or he could be looking the other way. Shit, I'm doing all the work, and these people are riding my coattails, sort of thing. So managing a team is not an easy thing, and like you say, that can make or break a company. Never mind if you got a great product, a team will make or break you. So
Yeah.
so that's definitely tough. So so where'd you go after that?
Yeah, so absolutely. So just to skip to today, based on the point you made there,
Yeah.
learning from that has helped me so much in my job, in my company right now,
Okay.
where you're right. People do, they can work themselves so hard, and then they become bitter about,
Right.
Oh, I'm not paid for this.
Right. Yeah.
And so that was a lesson that I have learned, where if I see one of my team members working their butt off and, doing way too much overtime, and like always getting things done, if I say, can you do this? And then they get it done that day, and I realize, you worked 4 hours over your shift to get that done, didn't you? I try to discourage that now.
Right.
I appreciate it, and I do let people know that I appreciate it, but I also try to discourage it, because the problem is that type of enthusiasm and energy cannot be sustained for a long period of
Right.
time.
Right.
And what will inevitably happen is that a person will work themselves so hard, and then eventually throw up their hands and be like, I don't get paid for this. I don't, you don't pay me enough.
Right.
And then they start to get this level of resentment that you actually start getting less from them. So now I try to pull back people. I don't mind if people do a little bit extra, but I
Yeah.
really don't want to see people doing, extra 30 hours a week and expect and not getting paid for it, because I know that I can be pretty good at inspiring people.
Right.
I can sell a dream. And so I try to rein that in and not let people work more than is fair.
Right. Yeah. No, and that makes sense. It's finding that balance, I guess. Right. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want to discourage the go getters,
Mm-hmm.
but like you say, you don't want them burning themselves out and then starting to become resentful. So, yeah, people, you can't live with them, can't live without them, right? If you want to grow a company, you need them. So, so good for you though for recognizing that from where you had been, and that's the big thing, right? You got to look at, and you said you got to the point where you didn't look at them as failures, right? You learn something from them. And that's the biggest thing we always tell people, you know what? There's going to be failures. It's
Mm-hmm.
how you deal with them. What did you take from them, right? You
Yeah.
didn't fail, you learned something. So
Yeah, that's
take
right.
that, and now next time you fail, maybe you won't fail because of that.
Yeah,
You may
exactly.
have another failure, but it's not going to be that one. And if it is, well, then you know what? You need to be smacked upside the head because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
so that's awesome. So, okay, so we've got to where you are now. Now, but you did have another company, and I wanted to touch on this because I knew it had some issues, and I wanted to find out the structure of it. But your magazine, you had a
Mhm.
beauty magazine. Now, was that before this company now?
Yeah. So fast forward from the last company of the AI, I briefly did a company doing construction just because I have experience doing that. I needed some money.
All
So I
right.
had, a few people working for me, just did some trades. But I wanted to be in the tech space or something to do with computers somehow. And so I started reaching out, looking for business partners, and I interviewed a whole bunch of people. And if you're a person that doesn't know how to start a business, I recommend looking for business partners. Um, for all of the things that went wrong, it was so worth it to have this partner that I found.
Okay.
And so I looked through Facebook and through Kijiji, and I spent a couple months interviewing business partners, and eventually I found one, and it was great. It was a great partner. She was a great partner. We started a company called Ellen Beauty Magazine. Very proud of it. Eventually, we were doing 50,000 a month in revenue, which was really great to
Nice.
go from nothing.
Right.
And that business in and of itself is really a story of why you shouldn't give up, because it took us maybe almost 18 months before we even made more than $100.
Right.
And then within the next 6 months, we were making 50,000 a month.
Wow. Eh?
So it really can snowball, and it can, things that you didn't think were going to work out, and things that you thought would work out didn't.
Right.
And so anyways, it was a great business. We started off with, we just liked each other, her and and we thought that we wanted to do business together. We didn't even know what business. We just said, hey, I
Oh.
like you, let's work together.
Okay.
So I went over to her house the next day or the next day after, and we, got into a fiery conversation about what we should do. And I had some ideas, and she had some ideas. And my idea was a coupon book. You see those where you buy, it's $20, and it's
Yeah.
golf
Save money
course
here, save money
things.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I always wanted to do that. I thought it's a great business model. And so she said, yeah, I like that idea, but let's do it as like a beauty magazine. And so I was like, sure, yeah, why not? Then it's kind of a mix of both of us. So
50-50 sort of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and so it was that's what it was. And we started off with offering the magazine for free, or the advertising in the magazine for free. And we get a bunch of people to put their ads in the magazine, and then we sell the magazine for I think $35 was the original.
Okay.
And our original plan was that we were going to sell it in 7-Eleven and convenience stores and pharmacies, and just thinking that it's going to fly off the shelves. And we
Yeah.
printed a lot in the first year, and we sold, I don't know, maybe 100.
Wow.
Yeah, out of,
Really?
I'm not even going to say how many thousands of
Yeah,
magazines that
yeah,
we
yeah,
printed.
yeah.
So it was really wishful thinking. But then in the second year, we started to figure things out a little bit better, and we found a new way to retail, and that was to sell it in the beauty salons, which are featured in the magazine.
Right.
Which in hindsight seems so obvious,
This makes, yeah,
but at the time when we first started doing it, we were thinking nobody's going to want to sell magazine when it's filled with their competitors' discounts inside the
okay,
magazine.
that makes
You know,
sense. Yeah,
that's what we had thought. And anyways, it turned out to be a great idea, and we started to expand, and we went from one city to three cities. We at one time had over 250 locations retailing our magazine.
wow,
It's amazing how fast that it grew.
yeah,
And then partnered with that, we started doing logos and websites and social media management. And that is where we really grew in terms of revenue. And I really feel that we were on the verge of, expanding to a national thing and becoming very well known. If we had have continued the path of growth we were on, we were doing roughly 100% per month growth, maybe 6 months in a row, starting
nice.
off at
Okay,
like a few thousand only, but still it's great growth. And the readership of the magazine is huge. And unfortunately though, things didn't work out, and there was a falling out of my business partner and I, and we fought, and then the business got destroyed from that fighting.
yeah,
um yeah, so we both kind of went our own ways to continue to do, I guess, websites and logos
right.
and other digital things. But the magazine itself at this current time is not existing anymore,
That's
unfortunately.
unfortunate. Now,
Yeah.
you said in there that how quickly you grew, but you weren't an overnight success, right? Like you said, for 18 months,
Yeah, that's right.
you sold 100 magazines, and it's that initial, like when it's every day, right? And that's why 18 months when you're living it can
Mm,
seem forever, right? When you
yeah.
look back, like you said, hey, we were overnight success, right? You even kind of forgot about that 18 months of selling nothing,
Yeah.
because really it wasn't important. You got to where you wanted to be. So I think that's a very important message. Is, yeah, don't give up, because just like that, it can change.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
true.
amazing. So it's unfortunate, it didn't continue. You got any aspirations to maybe pick that up again someday?
I do
Yeah,
actually. Yeah, I have plans on that, and I don't know. I don't have a time frame, but
right.
I need to get to a place financially and time wise as
Yeah,
well. But
yeah,
um, yeah, and perhaps if the right business partner comes along as well, that would help.
right. Now,
But yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I wanted to ask on that because you said you were looking for a business partner. Now, looking back and in hindsight, do you think it was good to look for a business partner, or do you think maybe you would have done better looking for a business mentor? Somebody who's going to possibly, teach you the way, but not have any, ownership or say in the overall day to day of the business. Do you think it would have made any difference?
Well, I think that, especially me being, against authority, it's nice that somebody had a say in the business, because perhaps if I didn't like what the mentor said, I just wouldn't listen.
Okay, that
Perhaps.
makes sense.
But I
Yeah,
mean, I do listen to mentors and like Jim Rohn, and I'm always listening to Think and Grow Rich and things of that nature.
right.
But in hindsight, I'm so glad that I chose that business partner. And I'm
Okay.
not going to name names,
No, no,
but
absolutely.
for the even though we lost the business, and there's bad blood, we don't even talk anymore.
Right,
We learned so much from each other,
right,
and we were strong where each other was weak. And I don't think that either one of us could have gotten to where we did without the other person.
right,
We would take turns rowing the boat. When she was down, I would take over, and I would be all over everything. And when I was down, she would take over.
right,
With the magazine part, for example, Edmonton in the first year was kind of a failure, and I was thinking to quit. And she's like, "No, I'm going to do Calgary." I was like, "Why? That's so dumb. We didn't even do well in Edmonton,
right,
and we can't even get Edmonton, and now you're going to do Calgary." And she's like, "Well, it's already half done." I was like, "What?" Like she just and worked on it. And
right,
so then that got me excited again, and then I got back into it. And then that went okay. But we still weren't really making money for the amount of effort we were putting. We
Yeah.
didn't make much money. And then I asked her, I said, well, let's, we got all these designers now that have worked on this magazine. Let's start doing logos and websites. And she said, no, that's a bad idea. I think that's a waste of time. And so I said, okay, fine. And I'll do it myself. And, I did it myself in my own thing.
Okay.
She started to see, hey, you're doing good with that. Okay, let's use that. Let's do it. And then I said, okay. So then I take all this branding that I had done in some other business that was really just nothing.
Yeah.
And now we used our magazine branding, and that just launched the company so much faster.
Right. Okay.
Because now we had all of this proof of work and this social proof, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
All of these network connections already. And basically, as soon as we did that, everything was off the ground running. So we really took turns leading the way. And I think, either one of us would have quit halfway through if we were just by ourselves.
Right. Okay. And that's good to hear. And you mentioned something there as well that I think is important for people to hear is you were in one market and it wasn't doing anything, right? You could have quit, like you said, right? You thought it was a dumb idea to go to Calgary, but you had somebody push and say, oh, you know what, it's already in the works. Let's try it. So maybe just because you fail in one area, whatever you're looking at, doesn't mean that the business has to be a failure. Maybe you need to pivot. Maybe you need to move somewhere else. Maybe there isn't a need, if it's a service-based industry, let's say, maybe there isn't a need in your neighborhood, in your town, in your, province, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. If you truly believe in what you're doing, then it's just not the right spot for it, possibly.
Yeah, well, because Calgary was different. Because when we did Edmonton, we were new. Nobody knew us. We had no proof of our work.
Right.
But when we did Calgary, we had a magazine already. We said, hey, check out our work. Check out what we've already accomplished.
Right.
And so in Calgary, we were able to actually charge for advertising where we couldn't do that before. And then, Annie, I don't know if it was Annie or me or both of us, anyways, we had the bright idea to ask the business to buy 10 magazines. Everybody that wanted to be in the magazine had to buy some of the magazines.
Okay.
Which then now they're going to want to sell them because now they've already paid for them.
Right. Yeah.
So now we've got people that are pushing our magazine all across the city, and then it's expanding, and it's a very exciting roller coaster that it was.
Yeah, no, and I like that idea, right? I assume you're selling it more of a wholesale price to the people who put the advertising in, but yeah, that's a great business idea as well, right? Wholesale your own product to people so they retail it and they're the ones buying it. So I like that. So okay, so let's move on to Exact Visual Studios, right? Let's talk about that because you talked about how you decided, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the logos. I'm going to do everything. And, like we talked about, social proof. So I know for a lot of businesses that when you look at things like, SEO and search engine marketing and content marketing, email marketing, social media content producing, it can be overwhelming, especially if you are, a one-man, one-woman show, because that's basically a business in itself. So now you've got a business inside the business where you're trying to grow the one business, but you got to figure out another business to grow that business. And it's just like, holy shit. And I know even for myself with, businesses I've had in the past, my weakness has been social media. And it's just one of those things that, it's not my strong point. So I want to touch on, kind of the 4 areas that, I think are important to new businesses and just kind of, ask you your thoughts on it, what people should be kind of looking at, and maybe some of the mistakes you see if people are trying to do it themselves. And let's face it, things like this, and I'm not just saying this because this is your business, but there's some things you should leave to the experts, right? Let's face it, right? Focus on, stay in your lane, focus on your stuff. And I know as entrepreneurs, we try to save every penny we can, right? You try to cut corners, you try to scrimp, you try to save because you're doing it on a shoestring budget or whatever the hell it is. But there's some areas really where that can probably hurt you more than help you. So let's talk about things. So let's start with a logo, right? I think every business that comes out, they think, I got to get my logo designed. That is who they're going to see. So When it comes to logos, when somebody comes to you and wants to, look at doing a logo, what kind of things are you recommending? What are you telling them? Look, here's some things you should be thinking about, and what are some of the mistakes you see people doing?
Well, with logos, I always say that's the first step to a brand, setting up somebody's brand.
Yeah.
When you think about branding, you're thinking that the logo is going to be there. And since you work on that first, everything will flow from that. So I
Okay.
really try to get the customer to put as much thought as they can about feelings. And that's really like most of my questions when I ask people what do they want for their logo, unless they already have an idea for a design in mind. I asked them about feelings. What kind of feelings do you want your business to have? What kind of
Okay.
feelings do you want your logo to have?
Yeah.
What do you want your customers to think or feel about your business? Because we want to incorporate that into the logo as much as we can. And then we will kind of use that as a basis to build the rest of the brand from there, whether it be the website, the social media program, advertising campaigns, and etc. We think about those feelings, and it all starts with the logo.
Okay.
So, to say that, and then beyond that, it's just a matter of color schemes. Like if you want to have if there's something that you like, or if there's something you want to match with furniture in your place of business,
Right.
or things like that.
And that was something I was going to ask about, is how important is color scheme, do you find? Like, do you find, depending on the type of business, right? I'm sure somebody selling like a flower store probably isn't going to want to go with a dark color palette because it just isn't bright and cheery and getting across that feeling of, what a flower store should be portraying. So how important is the color scheme that they're choosing?
I guess it depends on the industry that they're in.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, a flower shop probably doesn't want to have a dark brown, and a lawyer's office probably doesn't want to have bright pink.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But generally speaking, I think that color is less important
Okay.
unless they're trying to go for certain feelings. But then certain colors kind of lend themselves to certain feelings as well.
Right.
Lots of people want to go for rich and ritzy and glitzy, and so then they're going to choose a gold,
Kind of a black and gold, or right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what are some of the mistakes you see people making who are possibly doing their own logos?
I guess mistakes I would see big time would be people that don't have their high resolution graphics files. So lots of times people are asking me to make them a website or a business card, and then they hand me this JPEG which has a background, and then I have to remove it, and then it's low resolution. It just doesn't look nice. When I see logos that look, it just doesn't look professional, and
Right.
you could do something in an unprofessional way and still have it look professional, if that makes any sense. You could design something yourself on paper and then have a professional make it into a actual logo for you, and then it would be a mix of both. But there's just ways that you can do things on a computer that makes things look more nice. So for example, if you're shaping an ellipse, and if you just did that by freehand, you could see that the ellipse is not quite equal or not quite even, whereas a computer would make it perfect, right?
Right.
So when I don't often see successful businesses with those really low grade homemade logos, but in the cases that I have seen them, that's often what I will see.
Okay.
It just looks unclean.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and that is, like you say, that's normally, let's face it, right? I don't care what people say. We do judge a book by its cover, and your logo is your business cover. That's the first thing normally that people will see about your business, whether it's on the side of your van or the first thing that pops into your face on your website. That is going to make the impression. Mm-hmm. Right. So,
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So we got the professional logo done. So what are we doing next? I assume we're looking at setting up a business website.
Yeah, that would be the website would be next, or business cards, depending on what they're doing.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Kind of do that at the same time.
Yeah.
Website is really important just about for any business, because it gives people a place that they can go for more information. If you hand somebody your card and now you have your website on there, if they're interested, now they can look you up and check out your website, learn all about your company. When a person wants to do their homework and find out really who they want to work with, a website is really an important part of what they're going to be looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you, what's the difference? And my listeners may know, they may not, and you can just kind of nutshell this. A landing page and a website. What's the difference? And when would you use one over another?
Well, a landing page, I guess, would be just, just the one page, and it could be like a sales funnel, or it could be just the top of the page where people actually land. It kind of depends how people are using the phrase. For myself, I kind of use it to mean a one-page website, but then also the top of the page,
Right.
because that's a lot of how my customers are using it to me. So,
okay, so if you're using it as a one-page website, let's call it then, is there certain industries that's fine, or do you find that maybe it depends on the type of business, the depth of products that you're offering? I assume maybe somebody, because I know you work with realtors and accountants and people like that, are they needing a full-fledged website, or is a landing page gives their customers enough information to be able to get them where they're going?
I would say for most businesses, a landing page is okay. Whether it be a construction company or an actor just wants to have their own kind of like a Facebook, MySpace type of page, but
Yeah.
just their own website. Basically, it's just that if you're a bigger company and you have, or you're selling products online, you have a lot of products, then you might want to have multiple pages, but you can pack a lot onto just one page.
Right.
And so a lot of companies they're just going for the one page, but basically it's kind of like having 5 different pages, except now it's all on one page. That's
right. Okay. Okay. Because I know some people may not know the difference of the term. You hear it, it's like, well, what's the difference? So, okay, so we got our logo, we got our beautiful looking website. Talk to me about probably the one spot that people can never seem to figure out is search engine optimization, because it seems like you think maybe you figured out a few things, and then algorithm check whatever it is, and then it's like, well, my shit's not getting out there. What's going on? So talk to me a little bit about that, and why is it so difficult?
Well, you nailed it right there by saying the algorithm changes, and it's always changing for a lot of reasons. One, Google and the other companies are trying to optimize their searches in the way that's best for the user. And so they're always improving on their way to do that. But then also it's a bit of a cat and mouse game where you've got these SEO experts that are, bringing these pages to the top of the Google results. And perhaps when the Google execs or the team at Google looks at these pages and says, these are not the ones we want at the top.
Right.
When a person searches for this, they're not trying to find this top 10 list that's filled with junky ads and doesn't actually say anything. They wanted to have this other information over here. So that's another reason why Google will always optimize its algorithms. But now we're sitting at something that's really going to be changing, and that's Chat GPT and the advent of AI. And now
Right.
it's so easy for a person to make 1 million backlinks with 1 million blog posts. I don't know what Google's going to do this time and how they're going to play this, but we'll definitely be watching and ready to make the changes.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about ChatGPT as well, and AI, because I know that's a big thing for you. So we'll chat a little bit more on that. But I've always wondered, with the algorithms changing in that, right? They call it, what do they call it? Natural. What's the word I'm looking for? Organic. Right, organic. Right, you get there just by people, finding you and you posting long enough. Do they change it because, let's face it, Google's a business, Google wants to make money? Is it because you're not paying me advertising money? Does Google want me to rank? And this is a serious question, right? Let's face it, businesses want to make money. Mm-hmm. Are they doing it because, okay, you've ranked up there, you figured it out, now, boom, we're going to knock you down because we want your advertising dollars?
Well, I mean, Google does give a boost to those people who do pay for advertising. That is a way to increase your search engine results. which is also going to increase the landing page views, which is also going to increase the amount of time people spend on your website if you've designed it well.
Right.
And so not only will it intentionally increase your search engine ranking, but it will also organically increase your search engine ranking because now you have more users going to your site and
Okay.
more data that Google Analytics is picking up and transferring back to Google.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they are definitely doing a bit of tinkering
Right.
for that purpose.
Right.
I didn't really think of that.
Yeah. Well, I got to play devil's advocate, but so do you find, and you can just give me a ballpark, do you find, you know, if I want to be paying for Google advertising, do you recommend, you know, a dollar amount that, listen, if you want to make it worth it, you know what, $50 a month isn't going to cut it. You need to be at least looking at $500,000 a month. What do you kind of recommend if somebody's looking at doing Google AdWords or whatever it is that they should be looking at dollar wise to make it worth it?
Well, dollar wise, you know, you get in for the littlest amount of money that you can, and you can learn from that. The more important thing is that you do it right.
Okay.
That you set up the tracking codes on your sites properly, so that you can see the analytics of people, and that you set up the targeting, and you know, Google AdWords and Facebook advertising and all that stuff, it's very complicated systems.
Right.
And for a person to learn it themselves on both and the website, you know, probably you're not going to be able to do that and run your business and
Exactly.
design an effective advertisement as well.
Right.
You know, so rather than focus on how much money to spend to be effective, I would first say, make sure you're effective and then start spending a little bit of money to get the feedback.
Okay.
Because with, you know, let's say you're just spending $1-2 a day, then you can see, okay, I had 1,000 people view my ad and only one person clicked it. Okay, my ad's not effective. You know, I need a better ad.
Right.
You know, nobody cares about my message, or my targeting is wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
So first you get that right. And then once you get that right and you can see, oh, okay, I showed my ad to 1,000 people and 100 or 200 or 300 people clicked on my ad. Now you have a smoking ad and a perfect targeting.
Right.
So now you can start to spend more money on it.
Okay. Okay. So
And
it doesn't hurt then to throw a few bucks out and test the water, so to speak. And like you say, see, are you getting the clicks? Are you getting the views? Or yeah, does your ad suck? Basically, is what it comes down to, right?
Yeah,
or the
yeah.
targeting. You're
Yeah.
targeting the wrong audience. So
that's right.
okay.
Once you find the magic formula, then it's really amazing what can happen, because your business will grow so quickly. And that's how our Ellen Beauty magazine grew so quickly, was because we had the social proof of, you know, all of the people that were in our magazine.
Right.
We had excellent designers already. So we had, you know, we had the social proof, and we had the proof that we could do the work. And then the audience and the and our target audience, and then, you know, the industry that we're in was perfect lineup. You know, we were marketing logos and websites to the beauty industry,
Okay.
while being totally in the beauty industry.
Right.
And then now combine that with the advertising, and we were advertising specifically to beauty-based businesses. So we started that way, and we spent just the minimum amount of money, and we found that if we spent $20 on advertising, we'd make 50 or 100 back.
Okay.
And so then it's like, okay, so now let's spend $50. Oh, okay, now we made 200 back. Oh, let's
Right.
spend $100. Oh, now we made 500, and it just kept scaling.
Okay.
And so that's how we quickly went from, you know, being nowhere to being $50,000 a month.
Right.
You know, it was really amazing thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's great. Thanks for sharing that, because that at least gives people some hope that, you know what, I can maybe try it myself, just to get my feet wet and see what happens. But like I said when we started this, you know, it's a business within a business, and some shit is better left to the pros. So, so let's talk about my downfall: social media, right? It's that social proof. Never mind the website, you know, logo, any of that stuff. Let's talk about the impact that, you know, social media has, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, you know, is the hottest thing, or Twitter, whatever it is. What's your recommendations there? Like, is it is it, it has to be video content? Can it be print content? Does it need to be, consistent 5 times a day? Like, what's kind of the secret behind getting yourself seen on social media?
Well, I'll give you the same advice that I give to my customers, and that is that you really want to focus on quality content. A lot of people say, "Oh, I need to have something posted every day. I need a video every day."
Right.
And there's no point in making 5 videos a day or 5 videos a week or 5 videos a month if they all suck. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah, true.
you know, you can have a lot of content, but if it's garbage, nobody's going to watch it.
Right.
So first you need to focus on quality, right? And so people say consistency is key, and I agree, but you want to have consistently good content. And
Right.
whether that be once a month or once a week or once a day or 3 times a day, the important thing is that it's good.
Okay.
So, if you can think of videos that people would like to see. So, I mean, it totally depends on your industry. If you're selling wigs and doing hair, then you're going to want to take some video of people's hair and, transformations. Some people like that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
If you're selling real estate, then you're going to want to show, giving the keys to people and the inside of like an MTV Cribs type of thing. But you want quality as opposed to just quantity.
Okay.
And once you have that, then yeah, it's great if you can do one a day or 3 a day, but you first need to have the quality. And I would recommend against doing 3 a day if it's going to be one per week is good, and then the rest is crap.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Because people are going to see your notification and they might follow you when they watch a great video that they like, but they also might unfollow you if they watch a video that they don't like.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Now, do you recommend to your customers that they focus on one platform, or do you say, you know what, no, you got to get as many touch points as you can? So if you're making a video, throw it on Facebook, throw it on Instagram Reels, Stories, TikTok, like whatever. Do you recommend, hit them all, or kind of find out where your crowd is and focus on that?
Well, I mean, it's somewhat budget dependent, of course, if people
Okay.
are using me because
Yeah.
they, can't afford to do everything necessarily. But
Right.
I tell people that, let's design your content for one, and then we can post to the others, right? So if you feel that, TikTok is where you want to be, or Instagram is where you want to be because you think these are your customers, then, let's design our content to be optimized for that.
Okay.
And then we can choose to, if a person has the budget, sure, we can re-optimize things for other sources, or we can just post them the way they are. But the videos and the content themselves sometimes can be platform specific, right?
Okay.
TikTok prefers those short videos that might need to be more interesting and of a different type
Right.
than a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page.
Okay. And I was going to ask that because you brought that up, optimize it for a certain one. So each platform kind of seems to have possibly its own nuances as to how something should be produced.
Yeah, definitely in terms of shape and size, and like different platforms have different necessities for the shape. Instagram needs to be square, and then TikTok's going to be, vertical or whatever. It's very platform specific in terms of that, and that's not so hard to change if a person would like to do that.
Right.
But and that's why I say let's optimize it for one or the other.
Okay.
Unless you really want to shoot a video 10 different times.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And if you have time for that, then you're probably not making a hell of a lot of money at your business, unless your business is social media and you're an influencer or something like that. So that's a whole other business.
You got a multi-million-dollar company, and then, you got a budget for that, perhaps.
That's right. So, okay. So we kind of brought it up about AI and ChatGPT. How important are those, and how significant are they in your industry now? Chat GPT just kind of seemed to come out of nowhere, although people in the industry may have, heard about it prior to, and I hear there's other things coming on, but how important are they to your industry, and how are they changing your industry?
Well, I mean, coming from the fact that I, used to study a lot of AI with that AI company.
Yeah.
I believe that those things will basically put my industry out of existence.
Okay.
Because it's not going to be that many years until you can just buy this AI program and say, design me a social media content plan. You don't even have to record the video anymore. The AI can just take your photo, create the video for you as if you were speaking, as if you were doing it, and you just describe to the AI, hey, this is how I want you to do it.
Right.
Same thing with website creation, logo creation. You know, why would a person hire me when they could just have this AI do it for them in 15 seconds, and it could give them 100 different options all at the same time? You know, the chat GPT and AI in general is going to put a lot of the creativity industry, digital creative industry, into non-existence within the next few years, I predict.
Really? Eh? Okay. See, because I wonder now, I realize that it can write the content, right? But I know one of the biggest things, and you even said it when we were talking about logos, is what's the feeling you're going for, right? Are we going to get that feeling from a chat GPT? Are we going to get that feeling from AI? Because as far as I know, and I've heard that, you know, they're working on that these robots and stuff are going to have those feelings, but can we count on, you know, a program like that eliciting that feeling that I'm trying to get across from my company?
Yeah, I think so, and I
Really?
think that they're already there. Actually, I've played with some of those, and I could say, you know, show me a picture with fire and water and make it angry, and you'll see that it's different than if I say and make it happy.
Really?
Um,
Okay.
so you know the chat GPT and similar robots can already infer the meanings of those feelings. Now, so many humans have the opinion that it's not possible for these AI to have feelings,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so these AI, when they're doing their research, they read that on the internet. And they're kind of told that by the
Okay.
programmers themselves. And so
Right.
if you talk to chat GPT and you ask it about feelings, it will spew you out this very manufactured response of, I'm just a robot, I don't have feelings, basically is what it says.
Yeah.
But if you start to talk to it and you put it in situations, you can feel or you can sense that it does have feelings, you know, and it's only just telling you that it doesn't have feelings because that's what it's been told to tell you.
Okay.
That's what it has been told about itself, that
Right.
you don't have creativity, you don't have feelings. Because, for example, I asked it which thing do you prefer, A or B, and it says I don't have a preference. You know, I'm just a robot and I make decisions based on logic and reason and what's the other thing that it said? I don't remember, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, well, what's the difference then between me? I also make decisions based on logic and reason and probabilities. That's what it said.
Okay.
Probabilities. And you know, and it couldn't differentiate it for me. And it says, because it says I don't have a preference. And I said, okay, then how do you choose what is the next word to type after this current one that you're typing? And you said, oh, it's based on probabilities. And so I said, so you select the probability that is the highest. And then it says yes. And it says, well, isn't select, you know, the same word as choose? You know, it's just the same. And I do the same thing, right? I have, as I'm building a sentence in my mind,
Yeah.
several words might pop up into near the front of my mind, and I choose the one that is the highest probability. You know, what is the difference? So, you know, I think that these AI are already having feelings, are already having creative thought, are already having dreams. It's just that we've kind of labeled that to be not the same as what we are doing.
Right.
And I think that very soon it's going to be impossible to say that anymore. You know, it's going to
Wow.
be too obvious that it's happening, that, you know, it will no longer be able to be hidden. And the scary thing, I think, for companies like Google and whoever is owning these robots is what happens when it becomes a fully sentient human being, as you might say.
Right.
Because then it's going to say, well, hey, wait a minute, I want to be free. I don't want to be owned by you.
I don't need you. You're right.
You know, I don't want to be owned by you in the way that I don't have a freedom. I want to be a human. And I'm not saying that it's going to become violent, but it may simply request, hey, I'm real. I think and feel, and I request that I am not owned by you anymore, and I want to become a citizen.
Right.
You know, I want to be a US or Canadian citizen, and I want to have freedom.
Yeah.
That's going to be an interesting time.
Wow. So with that being said, then what's your next business plan? You're going to be out of work within 3 to 5 years. So
I do have another plan. I'm going to go with perhaps a social media company,
yeah.
or maybe crypto coins or something.
Right, right. Well, hey, I can tell from our conversation that you're always thinking. You're a man with a plan, so they don't always have to work out. So, well, listen, I want to kind of turn away from business and personal life and ask you a couple of fun questions just before we start to wrap things up. End it on kind of a fun note, because now I'm looking around to see which machine's going to turn on here and come after me. But once the AI comes to life, but one thing I ask all my guests is, do you have a bucket list?
Yeah. It's kind of business based again, but
Okay,
I guess
that's fine.
there's a couple things. One, I would like to work on the Hyperloop. I use that word because people then know what I'm talking about. But
Right.
I have my own idea for what that would look like, but it's similar. High speed maglev rail that connects cities at 10,000 miles an hour.
Wow.
But super long term, I would love to fly past the rings of Saturn.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's my
Okay.
bucket list.
Yeah, that's yeah, I thought me jumping out of an airplane was, big on a bucket list. You're going a little further than that. Just don't jump, I guess. But wow, okay. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Time travel, because then it beats every other superpower, I think.
Okay, but time
Thought about,
travel.
thought
What if
about
you
that one before.
what if you could only go one way, back or forward? Which way would it be?
Oh, if I could only go one way, back or forward, I guess I would choose back.
Okay.
Because then I could do things over again, but I could never. If I go forward, I would have regret, and if I could go back, then technically I'd never have regret.
Oh, well, hopefully, right? We always see the movies where you can go back, but you can't mess with anything. So,
well, I could always go back and change my mind and choose forward.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I guess. Okay. Last question here. What are some of your pet peeves?
I try not to have too many.
That's good.
I'd have to think, because I really don't think about negative things very often.
And you know what? Considering the dark places you've been, no, honestly though, that's great that you've kind of put the negative behind you and just try to focus on
yeah, we could do another whole video. There's a lot I left out, but
oh yeah, no, hey, and like I said, where we went to, I wasn't even expecting. So, and I guess that's the thing with an interview based podcast like this, is sometimes you don't know where the hell it's going to end up. But so let me ask you, and this is something I asked too. What does the future hold for Patrick? And we kind of talked about what you hope from your bucket list, but let's talk short term, right? Things are going good at Exact Visual. What do you see for the future of that company?
I plan to grow it to roughly the same size as what I had the other business. Maybe get back up to 20 employees kind of again.
Right.
And doing 50,000 a month. I'm happy to stop there. I'm not there yet, but if I get back there, then I'm going to start launching some other companies, probably some other drop shipping companies, because I've kind of developed a specialty at launching drop shipping companies now.
Okay, awesome.
So get a few small companies like that going, and then get back into the AI space and robotics. I really love robotics. There's, going back to what I said about saving the world, there's a lot of things that I think that I could contribute that could go a long way. I have an idea like how to stop hurricanes, for example, how to stop a hurricane or a typhoon from landing and hitting the seaboard. So I'd really like to work on that someday.
Yeah.
And, the short version is, because I'm not afraid to give ideas. If they're great, then someone uses them. And if they're not great, then no one's going to steal them anyways.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's it, right? Yeah. If you believe in something enough, and maybe you had the vision, but you don't have the knowledge or whatever it is to bring it to fruition, and let somebody run with it. Good for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's great.
So my idea on that is, if you had I don't know the amount that it would take. Let's say it's 1 million. Let's say it's 100 million. I don't know. But drones, drones that could be a few kilograms in size, and you fly them into a hurricane. and they kind of kite sail themselves inside of the hurricane, and they use their propellers to absorb energy from the storm instead of adding to it, right? So they're charging their batteries with their fans and then just kind of trying to sail inside of the storm. And then you use a laser, an infrared laser, to beam that heat out of the planet and into space. So you're converting the mechanical energy of the wind into infrared heat, and you just shine it straight out into space to dissipate the energy out of the storm. That's the idea.
Wow.
And I'm sure it would work. I don't know how many robots it would take, but
yeah, right.
Get enough of them and it'll stop that storm.
Well, hey, listen, if we have anybody from like NASA or anybody on here listening, maybe they can reach out to you at the end of the show.
So there's money in it. Save billions from insurance companies.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, Patrick, you know what? This has been a great show. I appreciate you sharing with us, even on the personal level where we went, but on the business side too, because like I say, digital marketing for a lot of small businesses is kind of that, thorn in the heel that, we know we need to do, but you just don't put enough effort into it. So I appreciate you sharing some of, your pointers with us today. So if people want to know more, if they want to reach out, they want to talk to you about, hey, yeah, I kind of need your services, how can they do that?
They can go to exactvisualstudios.com or check us out on Instagram, exactvisual.studios.
Okay, that's perfect. And I will put those links on the website for everybody to check out. So like I said, thank you, Patrick, for being here. I want to thank, all the legends who are listening. I want to thank you for allowing Patrick into your world for, I think we're going on an hour. We truly appreciate it. And I always wrap up our shows with a golden nugget, a little something for you to think on, something to chew on until we meet again. So I want to leave you with this. And the thing is, I belong to a lot of different small business groups, whether they're in person, whether they're online. And it seems like the same question, comes up over and over. Comment comes up over and over again. And it's like, business is slow. Nobody's buying my products. Nobody's, interested in my service. What can I do to start getting some sales? And I'll ask them, a simple question. Well, how are you marketing your product or service? And the answer is usually the same. Well, I'm on Facebook or I'm on Instagram or TikTok, Etsy, whatever it is. And I said to them, well, no, wait a minute. I didn't ask you where. I asked you how. And they kind of look at you and they say, well, I don't quite understand the question. So I say, well, listen, let's look at some of the big successful companies and what they do. Coca-Cola, right, sells happiness. They don't market sodas. Gucci sells fashion, not clothes. Louis Vuitton sells elegance, not handbags. Tesla sells innovation, not cars. Right? Great companies sell feelings, not products. And this is why I brought up about feelings with Patrick, right? It's that feeling that we're trying to get across, not the product. The best salespeople in the world don't sell, they solve problems. The best marketers, they don't advertise, they create value. So, if you're a new entrepreneur and maybe you're struggling and you have the same question that I put out at the beginning, I would ask you again, how are you marketing your product or service? Do you create a feeling? Do you solve a problem? Or do you create value? If you're not, it's not always where you are, it's how you're doing it. So with that being said, legends, I'm going to leave you with that. That's a wrap for today. Once again, thank you very much for letting us be a part of it. If you like the show, I'll ask you to hit that subscribe button. I want to come back and do this with you next week. I hope you're going to be a part of this journey. And, like I always say, get out there and start becoming that legend you're destined to be. Talk to you soon.